Hi, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours for Monday, February 25th. And we have a couple different things on the agenda for today. So one is talking about links in the back matter of the books and what tools might work best for tracking and why you might track and what kind of data you're looking for. So we'll talk about that for a few minutes. And also, then we're going to lay out one of the book's pages for Eileen's website. So we're going to set a template for one of the book's pages, and then Eileen's going to have homework over these next few days to replicate that for all 14 or however many books there are now. And then we'll be able to do some higher level stuff when we come back on the next one. So also, I would like to know if there's anything else that people have brought as questions or things you want to tackle today. What are they? Are there any additions to that agenda? No, all about back of book links and then website building. Okay, excellent. So there are a few different tools that you can use to do the back of the book links. And I guess the first question would be, why do we why do we put the links in the back? What's our goal with that? And what are we tracking when we say, like, do you have trackable links, or are you collecting data on where people are linking? What do we even mean by that? So for anybody, guesses? What do we mean? Why are we doing it?
Well, don't we want to know how many people finish a book and are like, oh my God, I love it. I must have another right now.
And we also want to make sure that they can get to the next book as quickly as possible, and that we can find them so that we can sell them more books and keep them involved in as our fan base.
Yeah, exactly. So partly we want to track how many people. So a couple things. If we're looking at a call to action that's for getting people to sign up for our newsletter, we want to be able to see how many people clicked on that. And then we also want to see how many actually signed up. So that tells us, it tells us how many are converting, right? So that's a good number to have. Because if it's not a good percentage of people that are converting, if out of 100 people who look at that form, only one actually put their email address in, we know we've got a problem with that form, right? And maybe it's the language, maybe it's the images that are there, maybe it's what we're saying on that page in terms of how we're stating our benefits, whatever that is. There's something that's not working if we're not getting a very high conversion percentage. So that is really important. And the other thing that it will tell us is if we have trackable links in different places in our book, like maybe in the beginning there's a spot that invites people to come to your website and check things out, and that might also appear at the end of the book. If we have two different links, we can see which one of those is working, right? If people are only ever clicking on the back of the book link, then you can try and figure out why. Now, sometimes it's external things, like when Kindle made a change a little while ago and the book now opens at chapter 1, it completely skips all the front matter. So anything that's in front matter is no longer being seen potentially at all unless people are manually going back to it. So a lot of the stuff we used to put at the front of the book might actually get moved to the back these days. The other thing about positioning is that when you get to the end of the last chapter in your book, Amazon, if you're reading on a Kindle device, it pops up with a screen that says, go review this book, and then other books by that you might like. But a lot of people don't realize there's more book to come after that screen. So you need to put something at the end of your first chapter. Like if you've got an about the author and an acknowledgement and a sample chapter for the next book, and they're all put into the book after the first chapter ends, people may never see them. So now what a lot of authors are doing is actually building their back matter into the end of their last chapter. Like if you're using Vellum to do your layouts, at the end of chapter 1, you put all that content in, because as soon as they scroll to what triggers end of chapter, it pops up with that screen and then you lose people. So if there's one thing you want them to do or see, you put that in the end of that last chapter instead of adding it as the back matter, which is built in as the default option for the layout programs, right? So that's also important. So two pieces is one, knowing where you're putting it and putting in a link that helps you track it. And then 2, actually checking the user experience, right? And seeing what's changing. So if you're reading in whatever platforms you're publishing in anyway on a regular basis, you're going to notice some of these changes happening. But often it will necessitate actually changing your files to make sure that whatever this new switch is going to not completely eliminate people seeing your other matter that you've worked so hard to put together, right? So that's one way to do it, is by setting trackable links and then working from there. So when I say trackable links, what the heck am I talking about, right? I am going to just pull up a couple of the most common options, and then you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. There are several good free ones. So one of them is the universal book links through Draft to Digital. And those, you don't even have to have a book published through Draft to Digital to use that tool. You can actually just go to the dashboard and you can set up your links there. So one sec here. Downside of a new computer is that every single cookied in everything is gone. So I've spent the last week hacking into all of my own accounts, some with more success than others. This is not one of the successful ones. Okay. One sec. How many people here have used Draft to Digital? Yeah, Marianne has. Nobody else yet. Eileen, when you indie'd your stuff, where did you do it? Like, did you just go through KDP or did you?
I went through KDP, so that's where I've been.
Right.
But stay tuned. I may change that.
Okay, so we have, this is the Draft to Digital dashboard, and there's a tab on here called Universal Book Links.
Yeah, I didn't know you could keep using that stuff if you were no longer wide through them.
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and anybody can create links. You just paste a link to your book in here, and then it will generate a link for it. So this is all the ones that I have set up in here right now. This is not actually what I'm currently actively using. This is what I originally used. It's nice and straightforward. It's not super complicated. You can you just copy the books to read link and you put that into everywhere that you're linking to the book. And what happens is when people come and click on that link, whether it's in the back of the book or wherever, it shows you every store that that book is available from. So then people just pick which one they want to read it at. So instead of having 15 links in your books saying buy from Nook, buy from whatever, you just have one place that you can do that in. So if you've got a book that's wide, this is definitely a really good way to do it because it will compile everywhere that it's active.
But even if you're in KDP, your print books are available widely, so it doesn't hurt to have those links, whether it's Indigo or Waterstones or.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you're just on Amazon, you can still have a universal book link and it will localize. So if they have the Amazon US store or the Amazon UK store or whatever, it will take them to the right one for them. So that's valuable as well, of just having the one option.
The other thing is if you change your availability, the link doesn't change. Right? It's still valid?
Yeah, no, it's always the same link, so you don't have to update anywhere. You just have it right there. The other thing,
that's useful.
If you are wide, then if you're submitting files to Apple or whatever, you can't have an Amazon link in there. So like this way, it's not an Amazon link, it's a books to read link, and it won't get filtered out. But you cannot have the word Amazon in an ebook if you are submitting it to be published wide. Like, Apple will reject it. So you need to make sure that I actually create two versions when I'm doing ebooks. I will have a wide version and a KDP version, because on the Kindle one, I want a link to where they can review my book, and I want to link specifically to Amazon stuff and say, don't forget to review this on Amazon. But you can't say all of that in the wide version because it won't get through the checkers. So just something to think about as well. So you might want different. In here, it's all the same link, so you can't really tell all the sources on everything. Well, let's just check this one and see if it's giving us more of a breakdown. So it's going to tell us, yeah, you can add your affiliate codes in here. That's useful. If you do have affiliate codes for different stores, then you can actually also make money off of the referrals that are happening in theory. You can give a custom name to your URL. Only one link name is active per book link, so it decommissions any existing ones. If you add a new one to a book, you can only have one custom for each book. So, you might do one that's just the book name like I've done here, but you wouldn't have like RER Silverbell's back of book. Like, you can't have multiple links that you're tracking for the same book. So you can't tell where they're clicking from. If you've got that link in the book in 3 different places, it's the same link. So I can see here that 177 people found my book through this link, that from the people who clicked it. So from 177, 153 of them clicked through to Amazon, 16 clicked through to Apple, and 5 clicked through the Kobo. So you can see that we can see where most of your readers are. And this is really useful if you're thinking about, should I be going wide? Like, how much of my readership is in this place versus this place versus this place? This just helps you see which stores people are preferring to use. And that's useful information to have. And you can see the total number of clicks on things, which is also helpful. And it'll tell you when was the last time somebody clicked on this. And this is also useful to be checking up on, because if your link gets broken or something happens and it's no longer working properly, this is one of the ways you can see that. If you know from your stats, like if I go on my Amazon dashboard and I see that, 2,000 people have downloaded the book this month and no one has clicked on a single link, something is wrong, because that's not usual. So it's only in knowing what your patterns are that you're able to see if something worked or didn't work, right? And if this is one of the ways to flag that if it's broken. However, I actually have switched to BookLinker and Genius Link because I'm not wide right now other than my free books. I'm putting most of my energy into Amazon at the moment. This tool lets you generate multiple links for the same book. So you can actually generate a back of book link and a front of book link for the same book. You can customize them. You can normally, apparently not right this second because it's going to time out. You can set up however many links you want. So you can have giant libraries of links and they will track the data. So if you've got a series and you put a get book 2 link in the back of a book, then you can see if you make that same link and you put it in the back of 5 different books as part of your also buy list, you can tell which book set of things did they click on. So like, do I have 80% of my readers clicking on that in book 2 or book 3 or book 5? And that lets you see partly your read through and partly like how far in did they get before they were wanting to commit to a box set. Like what is it that people are doing and why? And that's really what the power is. These ones, if you put something in your newsletter and you want to see like who was interested in stuff. So this one I actually put in when I had sent out info that Donna was giving away her book. And this shows us the country flags of where people were clicking and interacting from my newsletter. So you can use these links not just in your books, but in your other places. You can put out a link for Twitter to say that you're doing a promo. So let's, for example, say that you are doing a 99-cent giveaway or a 99-cent promo on one of your books. And you're going to advertise that by sharing a link on Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, whatever. And you want to know who's clicking on those things and where the traffic is coming from. And is it worth my time to be posting those messages on these different platforms? You can create a different link for Twitter and for Facebook and for whatever, and then use that as the link in your campaign. And then you can see here exactly how many people clicked through from that campaign. If you find out after doing this 5 times that like 3 people have ever clicked on something from, LinkedIn, and then 6,000 have clicked from your Twitter profile, maybe you put some more energy into Twitter and not so much into LinkedIn, right? So it lets you reassign energy where it's going to be important. And I mark where they are. So this is the book, this is the series, this is, which one it is in there. But then you can also create a bunch that are, back of book, call to action at end of last chapter, like whatever it is, you can make it really clear and easy on yourself to come and see it. There is a paid upgrade section that lets you customize a lot of other things as well and put in your Facebook pixels for tracking. Let's say you want to make a Facebook campaign for your books and you want to buy some ads and you want to be able to target people who have been interested in your stuff in other places. Then you put the Facebook pixel into the back end here, and it actually can harvest the information of all the people who looked at it. And when you go to target an audience on Facebook, you say target people who visited my website in the last 6 months, or people who have clicked on a social media campaign in the last year, or whatever. And like, this is why ads of stuff you've looked at on a website start popping up in your Facebook feed. This is a very, very powerful way of gathering the information and then repurposing that for marketing down the road. So, it's the information that you have is what lets you see what is or isn't working. And if you know what it was before and you make a change, you can see if it's better or worse. And that's the other thing is, we guess a lot at what might work better. We read an article, we watch a video, whatever, and then we go in and actually make changes. But unless you were tracking what you were doing before and what results you were getting, you're not going to know if that was an effective change for the good or not. So it is really important to actually be collecting some of this data. And in terms of the actual links themselves, once you grab the URL and you go into your Vellum file, then you can just open, or whatever you're using, Vellum or Draft Digital has a similar thing. Oh, that one appears blank. We won't use that one. It's also blank. Not really what I'm hoping for here. I just installed a Vellum update, so let's hope it didn't break all my books. Otherwise, this week might look a little bit differently. Yeah. Why is nothing going past chapter 1 and nothing has content? Okay, I'm going to stop opening things just in case. And I guess do a little bit of troubleshooting later, because I don't know why none of these are now having content in them. Okay, well, we'll pause on that and revisit that when hopefully my books are back, because that's going to be really awkward if not. And I guess we'll be having a chat with the Vellum folks. So for those who were watching the tutorial on why you use Dropbox, this is why. Because I can go back and I can restore my files from last week before I did the Vellum update, and I will have everything intact to start again with. So that is one reason why it's really important to have those backups, take those backups, because I'm not actually panicked at all. Like, it's going to be inconvenient if I have to do that, and it might take me an extra hour, but it's not going to mean I have to reformat like 13 titles or whatever and start from scratch, basically. We're not doing that. So yeah. And I don't know if anyone else has just installed the recent version. You want to go try opening up a file?
I don't think I will. Did the opportunity arise?
Tell us pretty quickly if it was vellum that was the issue. Anyway, we will, yeah, well, I guess I'll let you know what happens with that after. For now, does anyone have any questions about linking and sort of how that stuff works, or why, or anything? Yeah, Susan.
I was just thinking, so how do you choose? You said something about getting people to sign up for your newsletter, but also are you just having them click through to buy books? Like, how do you choose which way to go with your links?
Right. So it's not so much choosing as just prioritizing which ones. So if it's a free novella that I've published on Kindle, like for Silver Bells, it's out there for free everywhere. My goal with giving that book away is to both build the audience and have them buy the next one in the series or the box set, right? So I have two competing goals there. So I will actually do both. I will say, here's the link to buy the box set to complete this story arc, because really I want them to buy the books, because if they buy and read the other books, I have more chances to get them to sign up for my newsletter, right? So if they're people who buy things, I want to give them the opportunity to buy the thing first. If they skip over that because they don't buy stuff, then I will invite them to join the newsletter list to grab some more stories for free.
And to keep them in your
community. Keeps them in your sphere and gives you some more chances to convert them over to other things, right? If it's at the end of a mini series, so like, if there's 4 books in a series and then you're trying to get them to do something else, then often if you want to try a different series, you can grab book 1 for free from my newsletter or whatever it is. But if you remember when we did that mapping, the reader mapping with Scapple, and we were like blocking out the reader's journey, it really helps to have an actual plan for that, where you've got it mapped and you have arrows that show like this book has a preview chapter of this book to lead them into this. And so, if you've got those arrows, or even you can draw it on paper, you don't have to use a computer program to do it. But the important thing is knowing, where am I sending people from each of these as the next thing, right? And then you're able to organize that journey and to keep track, because if you add a new book in a series, or when you change what is in the back matter, it drastically can impact sales. When I took the first chapter of Maybe out of Tipsy, because book 3 and 4 in that series were now available, my sales on Maybe went poof, because there was nothing leading people into it anymore. It was now a unique discovery. Or when they got to the end of that box set would be the time that I could then say, okay, this has got to go back in here, and now come meet this other family in this town. So you have to make sure that you have things pointing at all of your various books kind of equally. But it is fascinating to see that it was obviously working. It was doing a thing. And you can tell that by the people who are clicking on the, get this now thing at the back. And you can also tell that by the dip in sales when you take it away, which is a less good way to find out. But yeah, it just gives us a bit of ammunition to work with when we're trying to make decisions about what will work or not work. And if you're going to run ads on a book, maybe you run the ads on the one that doesn't have the organic read through from the other stories, right? Again, it helps you make decisions because you know what people are doing and ideally why. And the good thing is your stats are tracked in a couple places. If you set up a MailerLite landing page, like we've talked about for people signing up for your newsletter, it's a quick click from that link. All they do is enter their info and then it closes again. And so then you're back in your Kindle with that second chance to convert them to something else. And you have their email, so you can send them direct messages as well. Ideally, it just gives you several ways. Hoping they'll click on any one of those is a positive thing. And again, if they're not, then you know you need to tweak your language or your positioning or whatever, or your content. Like if people aren't engaging at all for the next thing, then you need to look at, was it that your cover was leading them into a world they weren't expecting and they didn't make it to the end? Because that's a possibility, right? If people aren't clicking on anything at the back, it's because they didn't make it that far, or because they didn't love it enough to want more. And so then you know you've got a bit of a content revision issue where you need to go back and either make sure your sales pitch is matching the actual story so that the expectations people have are being met, or you can actually tweak and update the content. If they're in the right ball game, but they just didn't love it, then it needs more work. Yeah. Okay. So, website time. Yeah, book page. Okay. So, in 1 minute here, I'm going to pull up the site here. And you guys can see my whole desktop, is that, yeah? My mess of book covers. Cover that up. Anytime you want to log into a WordPress website that you've created, and this sounds basic, but it's something that every single person I think I've ever worked with has had trouble with, is how do I get back into it once I've made it and gone away that first time? So you can always go to the URL where it is, and then /wp-admin. And when you do that, you'll have the opportunity to log in. And yes, Bonnie, we could talk about covers on Wednesday night, if that works, in the evening time one. And then hopefully you can be there and interactive. We can even do it this Wednesday, because that one's not booked yet. Okay, one sec. And of course, we're always storing our information somewhere safely so that we have a password we can retrieve. One sec. Okay, here we go. And if people have any specific questions about Divi, you can drop those in the chat as well, and I will try to answer those in the context of what we're doing too. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to create a book page. So, and we're actually going to build this as a template so that we can save it to the library. One of the cool things about Divi is that you can make a page that's the structure you want, and you can save that structure to the library. And then when you go to make another page like that, you can just load it from the library and it fully populates and is exactly identical to what you had before. So we're going to call this book page template. And in fact, we're going to call it single book page template, because we're building the page when people click down a level and then it's got more expanded information about each book. That's the one that we're building right now. We're going to use the Divi builder because we want to be able to use all the fancy stuff. And we are going to actually hit publish just so it creates itself properly and we can use all the good preview functions and everything. Okay, and let's take a quick look here at Eileen's old site. Now the old one had everything on one page, right? So it had just a basic set of info and then buy at these stores, but it doesn't have like awards that it won or any particular reviews or blurbs from other people that may have blurbed it. And we might want to highlight some of that stuff as well. So when you put in your book info, Eileen, what other stuff would you like to highlight for each book, do you think?
Sorry, I was muted. Probably some like blurbs or quotes that would either be, you know, so-and-so loved it, says best-selling, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And those would be the big ones, I think, because I could put awards in that as well.
Yep. Okay. And that stuff is in the document that's in the Dropbox or not yet?
Probably not.
Yet. Okay. So your next homework is to
Yes.
go through and collect for each book testimonials or awards or whatever you want to feature for each of these books. You need
Okay.
to collect that up. Because one choice you're all going to have to make when you come to the point of doing your books page, if you only have one or two books, then just doing it on one page so that people aren't having to click down a whole bunch of times is a good idea. But if you have quite a library of books, then you don't want your page, you want to be able to put all that on there, but you don't want this giant mass of information all at once. You want people to be able to maybe come to a landing page that has a high level kind of library of all these titles, and then you want them to be able to click down deeper into a single books page. And we're just going to take a quick peek at a couple different ones and see if you have a particular love of layouts on a couple of different types. Okay, let's check up on Allison and see how she's doing, since these are all new books out. Okay, so here's one option for a single books page. If you've got a series, you can have like a series title image, and then you can feature the book underneath. Looks like there's an audio book for this too, so you can have multiple formats, nice 3D image, got a bunch of quotes from people, and then the book description. And so this one is actually a series page. And it has, for the historical series, it's got all of the books on the same page that are part of this series, which is an option. It gets pretty long when you get a lot of books, so I'd probably be tempted to make buttons, like turn the books at the top into buttons, and you could click on whichever one you wanted and the info would show below. So it would appear like you were scrolling around on the same page, if that makes sense. Let's see what we did for Alan's. He's got a lot of information for each of his books. So here's the base, and then if you pick one of them, it has a single page that has all kinds of stuff. And he had a ton of info. So there's like foreign covers for the books, there's reviews, there's an excerpt, there's an editions list, because lots of these have different editions for different countries and stuff, awards, and then teachers' resources as well. And all that's held in tabs, because if you put all that on the page, it's completely overwhelming. So that's another way to do it. And it looks like he's got an audio sample that he's added too. I'm going to be the proud mama here, because once we built all these things, we taught the authors how to use them, and they've now, each of these two has been maintaining them for about 1.5 years on their own. So when I go back in and I see that they're like successfully adding things, it fills me with happy. So yeah. And we also wanted a way to be able to go back to pick one of the other books. And so this is an expander that you can choose, and then same thing, you pick a different book, and same deal. It's got the same layout, but this was flexible because you could also, with the tabs, it looks the same, but you can still add more things in there, which is also useful. And then just a little summary of favorite quotes or whatever, which is good. Okay, so for Eileen, how much real estate do we think we want? So do you need to highlight publisher or anything for the different books? Or some people include like ISBNs and things like that, but not so much. Okay. Buy buttons and book image and some testimonials, and then a description of what that book's about, right?
Yep.
That's our goal? Okay. So if we look at This one we might just load the header so that it has a similar, yeah, we might even not need a header if we're just going straight to books, because your books are not series, right? There's only the fairies are a series and the rest are not. So why don't we actually just start right from scratch? We know we're going to want an image and then some text as a starting place. So we can start by adding columns. And for the book image, the golden ratio is the 1/3, 2/3, right? That you've got on your page, you've got usually divided into 3. And then you're going to deal with thirds as real estate. We're going to start with the 1/3, 2/3. And we're going to put in an image module with a cover. And let's see, we'll upload one of the covers that we did the other day as 3D. And book covers, 3D covers, there we go. Okay. So we did with Malice just on its own. It's also nice if you have multiple formats to do a combo, and I think we did that. Yeah, we did. So we did this snazzy image that shows the paperback, the hardcover, and the audio, or and the iBook, I think, which is telling us maybe that it's too large. One sec, 3D. No, it's not too large. I don't know why it's showing an error. Okay, let's try that again then, shall we? Okay. Upload files. We'll try it a different way. We'll try dropping it in instead of the manual upload and see if that makes a difference. Because we'll see. Oh, okay. Haha, sorry. Turned off Dropbox syncing so it wouldn't break the video. And it won't bring the video from the cloud, or won't bring the image from the cloud. Okay. Now we should be able to. Let's try that again. So yeah, stuff doesn't work perfect for me all the time, just FYI. Lots of time troubleshooting. Okay, so we can see we have a little shelf and then the different formats of the book. And this gives you options for what you want it to do. If you want this image to link to somewhere else, and it's not a bad idea. If you've got a primary spot you want people to buy this book, or a link on your publisher's website or whatever, you can always make the images links so that they are active, which is just a good way to take an extra chance on someone buying it. Personally, I'd link to the of course, you're going to have created a unique book link for this book on your website, which will then, if someone clicks it, take people to whatever platform they want to buy it on it, right? So you can have a universal book link or one from Booklinker that is Amazon specific. So the Booklinker ones will take them to the Amazon of their country. And if you're wide, you probably want to use a universal link so all the stores are represented there. It also stops you from having to have like 47, this is where you can buy this book, buttons on your page. So we can really keep it clean and simple. So that's what would go in here. And then your image link target is where that link will open. So you usually want to open something in a new tab if it's going to take people away from your website. If it's going to stay just on another page inside your own site, great. You don't want 5,700 tabs open by the time people have poked around your site, but you also don't want them to go down a rabbit hole and never come back. So make sure if it's external, you've got that link. And the admin label is what shows us on the back side of the website. So we're going to say with Malice shelf 3 formats, because then we know exactly what that picture is when we look at this. Okay. We are going to steal the with Malice description from here. Oh, we have book club questions. Okay, so let's put text module in here. And there we go. As our starting place. And see, it just says text, but I would probably actually update that label to with malice description. This is an especially important habit if you're going to have a whole bunch of things on one page, because when it comes time to rearrange stuff to tweak how it's looking, you really want to be able to see at a glance what it is you need to move to where, especially if you have like a grid where it's like image, 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 text, 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 and those chunks of text belong with the images. You want to start with the book name on each of those labels so that you can tell which ones belong together. Okay, so we have description, we've got the books. This will be Eileen's logo up here. What else do we want? We wanted some what readers are saying kind of stuff, right? Now, depending on how long those are, you can use some of the space under the shelf, or we can use the space under the shelf for a buy this book call out. Eileen's nodding emphatically. Okay, so let's start there. So if we are going to insert a module, they have an actual button module in here, which is a really nice feature. So you can choose that. Buy this book, read this book, get this book. Start with buy this book and see how we feel about that. The link URL is what would be the universal book link, so that it would take people to whatever store. And then that would be in a new tab, of course. And we would insert the type of button. So buy this book button. Okay, so that puts it there. Let's just take a quick look at what the default styling is. It will update eventually. Okay, so that doesn't really fit with our branding here, right? Like, it's not horribly offensive, but it's also not as good as we can do. So we will want to look at what are Eileen's colors that she's chosen. And ideally, you want the buy buttons to always look the same, because you want to train people to be looking for a certain kind or color or type of thing in order to be following through on that. So let's see. We're gonna, this will be maybe not the final design on here, but we're gonna just play with some things so you can see how they work. So we might center the button underneath the image instead of having it off to the side, because it doesn't take up the same width as the picture. So we'll try it centered. You can choose to use custom styles, which of course we're gonna do that. You can set the text size on the button. You can choose a custom color for the button or the background. So why don't we go ahead and pick a background color here? We're gonna do orange just for the sake of ease. We'll probably adjust this to fit your overall styling after, but to start with, just so you can see what it looks like. You can say, does the button have a border or not? Does it have a color? I think we're gonna go solid on the button so it doesn't need to have a border. If you have custom fonts that you're using for your website, you can actually make sure that your button matches your font. So we could say we want typewriter, if that's what we're gonna use. Okay, they don't have that in there. We can't use that one. Anyway, we can upload, you can upload custom fonts as well to your site. So once we know, we can put that in. For now, we're gonna say default, which means it'll match whatever is chosen for the site as a whole. So you can make choices for your whole site and then customize just single pieces, but it is good to be consistent. So it's really the preferences to stick with that. There's an icon on the buttons and you can say yes or no. So we might, I don't know, you could have like a little shopping cart or something if you wanted. If it was an audiobook, you could pick the little audio headphones. For now, we'll just put in a gear so that you can see where that shows up. And then we would choose a color for the icon. So we're gonna go white. You can put a hex code which is the color code if you find a color online that you want, and you know. So if you have your branded colors and they're the same 3 that you're going to use everywhere, you keep those hex codes in a file for yourself, so that whenever you're trying to match your colors somewhere, all you have to do is paste in the hex code, and it will automatically perfectly match your color, so that you're always using those same things. And then you can play with the margins on the buttons and the padding, which is the space around it. You can be fancy with shadows and things if you want. If in doubt, change nothing. Like when you're not sure, leave it the heck alone, because graphic designers made these templates. So at least it's a starting place for you if you're not really sure. There's all kinds of fancy styling and animations and all kinds of stuff you can do, where we'll put in a roll just so you can see what that does. And again, consistency is key. This is not where you want 57 different animations, one new one on each button, just to show that you can do it. Like, this is not, don't get that fancy like that. If you pick an animation, you stick with it. You want to, every single button wants to be the same, and you really just don't want more than one sparkly shiny thing on each page, right? If you're trying to fancy it up, keep it simple. Okay. So let's see what we've done here. Woo, spinny. So you saw the snazzy, clearly we forgot to change the font color. But you can see when you mouse over, the image shows up. So often just making that image a couple of arrow brackets is enough, or whatever. And it indicates to people that if you click here, something will happen, right? We probably don't want blue on orange because that is really terrible contrast. Also not really Eileen's colors, so that's another thing. So that's something to look at. The buttons will automatically resize themselves to fit how much text you put in them. So there are tutorials on how to make them all the same width by dropping in a little bit of code. We're not going to do that right now, but if you have a column of buttons that you're trying to use as a menu on a sidebar, and they're like all over the place because the words in them are different lengths, there is a way to make them all the same, and it's a very quick video tutorial. So if anybody's trying to do that, let me know and we'll share the links for you. But for now, you can also see like there's a fair bit of space here, which we may or may not want quite that much room. So we could adjust that by changing the padding. So let's make a couple quick edits to that just so that we have white text at the very least. So this is saying dark. We're going to say light, but we're actually going to pick it. We're not just going to let the program decide. We want white, and we also want, what else did we want to change? We want to change that image, right? So that it's just like an arrow or something. So here's the arrows that often indicate something's going on there. So let's just use this. And the button icon color is also white, so that should show up well on the orange, and we'll see. Oh, we wanted to change spacing too. Okay, we'll go one more.
That padding?
Yeah. Okay, so we want a little bit less space between the shelf and the button. So under design, we are going to look for padding. So that'll usually be under the spacing column. And what we want to do is maybe take away the space at the top of the button. So we're just going to change that to 0. This is always in pixels. So 0 pixels is how many extra space we want. There will be some from the image on top of it as well. But we're going to start by taking out the one from the button itself. And then we might also need to reduce the padding on the bottom of the shelf if we find there's still way too much space in there. Then we can change that. Okay, so that didn't really reduce a lot of it, right? So we will need to look at that. The other thing you have to check, if reducing the padding on both of these things doesn't make them come closer together, it's quite possible that the image itself has white space under the shelf, and that you actually need to edit the image so that it's not creating that space. So that is something to look at. All right, so we need to also add some testimonials, right? That's something to take a look at. And we might also want to put the title of the book on this page. Any thoughts of, I mean, yes, you can see it, and it's tempting because when you have these giant images, sometimes it's like, oh, well, why would I bother with that? It's already there on the picture. Obviously, that's the book it is. But for SEO purposes and people finding your stuff, you want to have your keywords on the page, and you don't just want to have them there. You want to also have them as a title. So we could say with malice, and this is a heading 3, might make it a heading 1. And we'll see what that does. And there's multiple reasons why those heading designations are useful. One is the way that they impact SEO or people's ability to find your stuff. Another is if you use heading 1 styling for all of your book titles, you know that they're the same. And if you go in and you change the styling on heading 1, it'll change all of them, not just one. And so that is really efficient. So you're not, like, the more custom changes you make to a single module, the harder that is to remember and replicate and figure out, you know, why things were tweaked and how things were tweaked. So that's just something to be aware of in here. Okay. Now, we want to add some testimonials here as well. Take a quick look at this and see how our title did. Okay. It's a title, it's there, it'll do the thing for now. We could, there's lots of ways we could go with this. We could pull this out and we could put it under the shelf here as kind of a call out tagline. We could actually make a big old header at the top here, and we could put this into it as a tagline that's a visual tagline at the top of the page. That's an option. We'll see. And that's kind of gets into like the fancying things up part. So if you get your base content in and you figure out how you like it on the page, and then you decide what you're adding there, that has value. Because we also have, we've got book club questions to pull here too, right? So these are a downloadable PDF. Okay. So we're going to add those to the assets file. So if you're moving stuff or collecting stuff, it's a really good idea to just download it locally, and then you're going to re-upload it into the media library. And that's where that stuff is coming from. And then you don't risk linking to it somewhere else that isn't going to exist later, because that's a problem. So as much as you can, you want to contain things right in your site. And this is the first one we've pulled the book club questions for. So we're going to create a new folder. And then now one thing I would do is actually add Eileen's name to this file name, because you want to think of it both in terms of SEO. The more your labels for your pictures have your keywords in them, the more likely people are to find that page, and the image will help them find that page. The other thing to think of is that when people are actually downloading this PDF, they're going to go find it on their computer. And they might be looking by author, they might be looking by book title, they might be looking for book club questions. So the file name will help people find it online, and it will also help them find it. And it's just one more step of your branding. So they're associating that book with your name, which is a good thing. Let's see, with malice, by. And you know what, we don't even need to say by, we just need the name in there, because by is a non-word in internet language. Okay. So we have, and I don't think there's any testimonials on there, so we don't have anything to pull for that. Do you have a sense of like how long those are, or would they be on the Amazon page? Amazon is the author's best friend when it comes to website building, because you can often, like, I will pull people's own book covers off of Amazon if they don't have them handy. All the descriptions are in there. You know, you've got reviews to work with, whatever.
Like I would probably go with the Entertainment Weekly, a seriously creepy thriller.
Okay.
Because anytime I can quote that I was in Entertainment Weekly, I pretty much do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see now. We have a couple different options, right? We could include just a big block of testimonials along here, but there are some snazzy options here in Divi as far as those go. So we're going to just insert a row for a minute here, and we can use the blurb one. We can use an actual testimonial one, which is kind of fun. And for this, Entertainment Weekly is the author of this testimonial. We don't need to input any of this stuff. We'll just put this, and just to see how this looks. Because there's some built-in styling. So don't love that, right, in terms of visuals, but you can do a whole lot of stuff to change that up. So what if we make it show up under the shelf? So it's going to be a whole lot skinnier. Okay, that's place one to start. We can choose the background color. We just don't want a background, I think, on that. We'll see how that looks just plain. Quote icon color, we could pick something to match the other pieces on the page or complement the other pieces on the page. And let's just take a quick look and see how that one is. Okay, so it didn't get us there with the, oh yeah, because it was the icon background that I changed. Got it. There's multiple design pieces in here. So we also want to scroll down and change the body text stuff, right? So we have the background on here will be way down at the bottom somewhere. Border color, if we want a border, we can set one. There's animation styles, all that same stuff. You don't really want a lot of animations all together. It's not really ideal. And where, quote icon, but where's the regular one? Sometimes they put the stuff under content as well. So you can see here, the background is actually under content and not design. So for this case, we're going to turn it back to white and see how that is. Okay, so it looks a little bit wonky because of the icon position here and the way that they've decided to style the Entertainment Weekly part, which we can muck with, we can change, we can whatever. For our purposes, I'm going to show you one more way to do those, and we'll see if we like the blurb one better. So we can use an icon, sure. And then we can pick that icon, because somewhere in here will be something appropriate. For now, we'll use a little thumbs up just to have an icon for now. With a blurb module, you can actually set this as a link as well. So you could have that link out to the book if you wanted. You can really never have too many links to your book. And then we'll see where the positioning is on this one. So you can change the size, the location. So we could have like a star here and then have it like we did with Alan's. There's lots of options of what image you use or don't use, and you can style this any way you want as well. So we'll play around with this a little bit more. And Eileen, if you can get me some more of the info that goes with the bits and pieces, then we can do that. And we might design a little thing that says download book club questions. That's a standard thing that will appear on any page that has book club questions. You can add another skinny column over here, and that might have all the stuff you interact with for this book. Like maybe there's a video trailer for it. Maybe there's a Facebook group that has been formed. There might be a blog somewhere where there's blog articles. I seem to recall there's some like bonus content for this that exists somewhere. So we could have that stuff down the side as well as sort of other places to go and explore, or along the bottom as images, depending on, is it something that occurs a lot? Like, is each book going to have special features or not? So this is why we don't just start and do all of them, but we figure out, okay, here's one, and what else will be the same as this or different? What's got to change? How are we going to make it standard, but still able to incorporate what you want for each book? So your homework is to go and write the notes for each book and make a list of each piece of content that you want included for the books, so that we can scan all of them together and see that, okay, if we make this template, then we can just delete this section for the books that don't have it yet, or whatever. If there's only one that has a certain section, then we might add that. But usually you want your book template to have everything you could possibly want for all your books, because you're going to design for the most complicated one. And then you're going to simplify for the others that don't have it yet. But it's much easier to do it the other way around. If what you load in has everything you need and you go XXX on what you're going to get rid of, then that's far, far easier and more consistent than adding in bits and pieces as you go. All right. So we have Irene's got to go, but we can do 2 minutes of questions if anybody has specific curiosities or challenges they might have in their own book page that they aren't sure how to incorporate, or if there's a plugin for that or whatever. Maybe, maybe not. Just absorbing information.
It's just the whole website redesign exercise is languishing on the to-do list.
Yeah.
I just got to notice that my domain name's going to expire. So I think that's the kick in the pants. I needed to take everything over to, what's it called? The other
HostGator?
Yeah, HostGator, and just do everything. So I guess that's probably coming up pretty soon for me.
Yeah, and see how long of a window you have before your domain name expires, because when you move it, sometimes it gets locked down for a bit. So sometimes it's nice to renew it and then move it to another host.
It's within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's locked down.
Well, when you change domain registrars, it locks it for a period of time and you can't do anything else with it. So if you're changing your hosting as well, just make sure you ask a lot of questions about that. The only thing you want to make sure is that you've renewed your domain name so that it definitely can't expire during that move period or whatever else, right? So
I would ask HostGator that question first before deciding whether to renew with the old domain name registrar.
Yes. Call them and ask. The last couple times I've asked them that question, they've said renew it and then we'll move it.
You don't lose money that way.
No, your registration comes with you. It's registered at the source until whatever date that you've already paid for, because they're all of these places that sell you domain names are getting them from the same actual place. So
okay.
Somewhere in I don't know where, is this master registry of all domain names. And the registrar is just the person you're paying to be the go-between between you and the actual purchasing.
So if you're converting from, say, GoDaddy to HostGator, you don't have to pay them new money. It's all included.
The domain name is still yours till a certain date. Some of them will get you to add one more year on when they move it over. So that would be the thing to ask them about, is but even then, it's only a domain name. So it shouldn't cost you more than $15, and it will just have extended your domain registration for another year by doing that. It doesn't lose you any money. They might make you pay in advance depending on how close to renewal you are, right? Yeah. So you can ask them, like, just say, call HostGator and say, this is what I want to do. I want to move my domain hosting and my domain registration over to you. And this is what's happening. My domain's renewing in 2 weeks. Like, what order should I do this? And then there's an unlocking of a code that once you tell GoDaddy you want to move it, they have to unlock it. And then you initiate the transfer with HostGator. And then when it's actually transferred over, then it's locked back down again. But there's codes to enter that have to come from both parties. So you're going to be dealing with both sets of tech support to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Definitely use the 800 numbers on both places. Actually talking to a real person or using the online web chat seems to be the best way with HostGator. You get like instant response and you have a printed out set of instructions.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Okay. That's what I'll do.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Just don't let your domain expire.
No.
You end up filled with sadness when that happens. You can.
I had a question that goes back to front matter and back matter. If you're done with that for now.
3 more minutes.
Yeah, no, it's just a quick thing.
Okay.
I was just following through on that public lending rights registration stuff that was on the loop. And so I was photocopying the title page and copyright page of the 3 books in order to include it with the application. And I realized that I kind of screwed up the front matter in terms of formatting on my 3rd book. I don't know why. I wasn't paying attention, or I was in a hurry, or I don't know what happened. But I didn't get the proper artwork for the title page because my book designer didn't come through with that. And somehow the relationship of copyright info and title page ended up in a different sequence in the book. And I just wondered, is there a guidelines for that? Sort of a checklist, do this and then put this page, and this should be on the right side and that should be on the left side. And
there isn't, because it's not hard and fast, really. Like a lot of it depends on which parts of the front matter you have. There is there are places online that have checklists, and I've definitely looked at them before, but it's more building a checklist for your books because they're going to be different. Like some stuff, in a print book will have a table of contents or not a table of contents. There might be a map. There might be, you might have a forward, you might not. Some people put their acknowledgements at the front, some the back.
Wouldn't all that come after the title page and the copyright info?
Potentially, but again, like people just do whatever these days. So what I usually do is I pick up my favorite 5 books in the genre that I'm working in, and I open them and I look at what order have those 5 people done it. And then I compare mine to that. And then that's usually the best way to do it. And then you set yourself a style guide that says vellum page whatever. And then really you're just replicating your vellum file and importing your new stuff. So then, it's already
I'm not very good at rules, even the ones I make for myself.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of making yourself a template. Like you could make yourself a vellum file template that whenever you make a new book, you do a save as of that template, and then you just input the info for that book and then import the actual book file.
So that's the thing in vellum, to create a template.
Well, I just mean like make a book that's not fully filled out, but has all your front matter and all your back matter exactly the way you want it. Then when you save as, all you're doing is importing your Word doc to fill in the middle part.
So you just put the skeleton stuff there. Okay.
Yeah. And then that way you don't have to remember and you don't have to care about the rules. You just use what you made for yourself. And then if you make a change, you got to go back and change the source one and then change the existing ones. But then from there on out, they'll all be the same, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no cheat sheet way to do that other than just actually sit down with the physical books and write out what you want. I took screenshots that I have in a Scrivener doc for myself of this is how I start a chapter and this is how I have the section break and this is the one I picked, like just because that was the only way I could be sure I was doing it right when I double checked. But if it's only yearbooks, like if you're not hopping around to different authors, then
Yeah.
once you set it, you set it. It's just for me because I was doing different people's
Right.
books at the time. The defaults weren't defaulting. They
Mhm,
were
mhm.
going to whatever was last used, not what was necessarily my own settings. So
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. Good luck. Welcome back. You're all tanned.
Yeah. Actually, the skin all fell off my face, so I'm back to normal.
But you've got a nice healthy glow anyway. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go talk to my mama who's still in Mexico. All you sunshiny people.
Mm.
And then we'll see you all later.
Okay.
Good luck.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.